Hello, stream. How's about we get back to work, huh? Oh my god, my hair looks fucking fantastic. I don't groom myself before I put myself on camera. It's terrible. But let's be honest, nobody's here for my looks, right? All right. Hello, Corey Unloaded. Working on a book. I'm doing my final read-through of the print proof of my book, Mystic. This is the final editing step, basically, before I publish it. Or I should say relaunch it, because it's actually already out. But welcome to the stream. Have a free book. That's the first book in this series. So basically I'm just going to be reading it out loud, and if I catch any little like formatting errors in the print book itself, or any tiny last little like writing things, not spelling, but you know, spelling's already been edited out and stuff, but little grammar things or like word echoes or stuff like that, I'm making those adjustments. Chapter 22. Lauren of the family Nelda, said Jordell. I am surprised to find you here, though not surprised to find you in the hands of the King's Law. Zane had frozen beside her. Lauren risked a glance at the wizard, hoping he had enough wisdom to remain silent and still. Though the fear was plain on his face, she saw no light in his eyes, and his hands did not move. Jordell came around the table with Vivian at his side. The other mystics turned to watch. The constables who had captured Lauren and Zane clearly did not know what to make of this, for they stood still in confusion. Gillum, too, looked puzzled, though still angry and suspicious. Hey, Butters! Oh, I'm glad you liked it, Butters. Thank you so much. Oh, that's awesome. Yay! Well, pretty soon there will be the new version of Mystic for you to read as well. What offense brings them to the King's Law, said Jordell, addressing the constables. Wait, I have a guess. Thievery. That is right enough, my lord, said the constable. Suspicion, anyway, though if you know them for the thieving kind, it makes our job easier. I'm afraid you will have to grant them a pardon and release them into my care, said Jordell, sighing as he looked at Lauren. Though they may not wish to come, I think they will prefer it to a cell. Hold a moment, said Gillum. These two have stolen a purse of my coin, and I will not leave here without my justice. Jordell studied him. I have no doubt they wronged you, though if I know this girl, it was not without some cause. Still, never let it be said the mystics did not uphold the King's Law. Vivian, see to it. Vivian's smile broadened. Lauren might have taken that for a good sign, an indication that the mystic woman bore them no ill will for the battle of magics upon the dragon's tail. Do we want to go with magics? That is funny. Look at that graph for the usage of magic. So it was chiefly archaic until about that was like the way it was mostly spelled until, and it tapered off towards 1850 and then was very rarely used that way until the 60s and 70s when Tolkien became popular and all of a sudden it spiked. uh if you don't mind actually being, oh, thanks for the host, Corey. Corey Unloaded, I appreciate it. One day I may figure out how to set up Twitch alerts on my computer, which, before anybody tries to tell me how to do it, it's only because I'm on a Mac, and Macs, the problem with Macs is OBS. OBS on Mac does not make it easy to do Twitch alerts. Wait, what are you talking about? Oh, the single L? Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. But I didn't want most people, you know, who read my books to go, wait, that looks spelled wrong. Thank you, Ria. Anyway, Butters, the answer to your question, if you actually want, for anybody who doesn't want to know any spoilers about Underrealm, mute me for a few seconds, and I'll give you 5 seconds to mute me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But Chet comes back at the end of book 3, so don't worry. All right, so we have officially designated that Magix, the plural of Magix, has a K. Lauren might have taken that for a good sign, an indication that the mystic woman bore them no ill will for the battle of Magix upon the Dragon's Tail, but in Vivian's eyes was a hunger and a promise Lauren could not identify. From her cloak, Vivian withdrew a purse of coins. This she threw to Gillum, who caught it in a deft hand and opened it. A deft hand? No, that doesn't match Gillum's character at all. Clumsy hand. Well, Butters, you might want to wait just literally a few days, because I am going to be relaunching Mystic entirely. So I'm just saying, totally up to you. But yeah, that's true. Which has not been great for sales. No, it's all right. And you know what? I honestly would rather not sell people books that I know have errors in them. From her cloak, Vivian withdrew a purse of coins. This she threw to Gillum, who caught it in a clumsy hand and opened it. The purse looked twice as fat as the one Jem had taken, and within it, Lauren saw the gleam not of silver, but gold. Gillum stared, his jaw so slack it nearly struck his chest. "That is far more than his purse held," said Zane, fuming. "I thought you said the woodsman was spinning tales," said the constable who held his arm. Zane's face flushed, and Lauren glared at him. "You call me a foolish girl," she said, "yet you speak with the grace and skill of a sow." No, because sow is our new... Oh. The streams do go on YouTube. Yes. There you go. Thank you, Ria. Because in Mystic, in Underrealm, I actually originally in the first in the currently published editions of all my books, I do use the term bitch, and I what I did was, because bitch is a very gendered insult, right? Obviously, so what I with the whole thing of gender difference consideration, especially discrimination, not really being a thing in Underrealm, I said, okay, so there will be bitch, but there will be a male counterpoint, which will be steer, which is basically just a bull whose only purpose is breeding, right? Which is like that's a male insult, haha. But then as I've been thinking about it more and more, bitch has connotations in the real world, in real life, that steer just doesn't, right? So if I'm going to, so it is cool to have equal but opposite gendered insults, but one of them is much more powerful because it exists in the real world. And so what I've decided to do is that there will be gendered insults, and it will be sow for a woman and steer for a man, but it will be sow for a woman instead of bitch, because that is actually equal with steer in that it doesn't exist in real life, and therefore doesn't have the same subliminal connotations in somebody who reads it, right? Just like thinking of it from a purely external writing impact perspective. And so that means that sow, if it is considered a very rude insult like that, is not what Lauren can call Zane here. You speak with the grace and skill of a cow. She can say cow, one with no legs at that. It is no great shame to be a poor liar, said Zane, but he would not meet her gaze. Enough of this, said Jordell. We require haste, more than you know. Constable, leave them in my care. I am not partial to thieves, said the one who held Zane's arm, and her grip tightened. All folk have their uses if the cause is great enough, said Jordell, with a look at Lorne. I will invoke my rights under the king's law if I must, but I would rather you gave them to me with trust than by duty. Take them then, said the constable, pushing Zane forwards, but take care that their grasping fingers do not stray again, lest they lose them. You have my word, said Jordell, and he bowed. Thank you. Now come. He waved them out. Lorne needed no second urging and made for the door, but Zane hesitated. She gave him a look and gripped his arm, her hand replacing the constable's. Come, Zane, she said. You cannot tell me you prefer even a constable's cell to Jordell's company. Yet I do, and I would prefer many worse things, said Zane, though mayhap we can still escape the cell and his company both. At last he followed Jordell and Vivian outside, where Gillum scuttled off into the streets after a final wrathful look. But once they had left the constable's training yard, Zane stopped. I will not withhold gratitude for your help, Mystic, but I wonder at its cost, said Zane. You have we already know it's Zane, so we can switch that to he said. Well, see, yeah, so like cow has a gender, like cow does mean female cow, but if we're trying to say, like, the point isn't that, the point is that sow in Underrealm means what bitch means in the real world, whereas what do you call it? What's another animal that has? What's another animal that has like clearly? Okay, so chicken. So if you said somebody was squawking like, if you said a man was squawking like a chicken, chicken means a female chicken, but that's not like a gendered insult. So if you say somebody speaks with the grace of a cow, like that is an insult that has something to do with, you know, the same way. And so it's like, it's like if you said in our world, you know, I'm trying to find the right way to express the distinction. But calling somebody a bitch is it's an insult that draws its primary insulting power from gender. And you are more likely to call a woman a bitch. And if you call a man a bitch, you are insulting him primarily by saying that he is feminine or has feminine qualities, right? Like that is part of the insult of the word bitch when you use it to apply to a man. And when you use it to apply to a woman, when you apply it to a woman, you are saying that she is not the way that you picture the ideal woman should be, right? Hen is a female chicken. Yeah, sure. In real life, though, you filthy cow, that's a clearly gendered insult. Like, you don't say that to men. Oh, like, you filthy cow. Okay. But, okay, so this is where the UK-US thing is causing a little bit of a breakdown. Because we don't, that's not an insult in the US. Like, I remember now that I'm thinking about it, that, like, calling a woman a cow in the UK is, like, a thing. It's not really a thing here. So, but that is, cow and bitch are the same, but bitch is stronger. True, though, when you apply bitch to a man, it has a different connotation. Yeah, like, yeah, but that's very much a UK thing. That's not a very common thing here. Although, but now that you're making me think of it, you speak with the grace and skill of a cow. You could say horse. Grace and skill of a horse. One with no legs at that. Okay, I like that. Because, yeah, and see, that's a UK consideration. Like, I know that, like, I can... But it is a consideration, and I do have quite a number of readers in the UK, so that is a good thing to think about. Absolutely. I will not withhold gratitude for your help, Mystic, but I wonder at its cost, he said. You have pursued me since first I left the High King's seat, or so I have heard. Now you have found me, but I must disappoint you. I wish no business with you or your kind now or ever, and I would take my leave. You may take it, but I do not yet... Mayhap you would take it. You may, because you may has a specific meaning. Mayhap you would take it, but I do not yet grant it. Oh, I sell by far the majority of my books in the US. I think I'm like... probably like 60% US, 30% UK, and 10% everywhere else. Probably. It's not a UK only thing, but like it's very common. I feel like it's very common there. Whereas like, and like I hate to even sort of, I don't know, use this word or whatever, but like a common a comparative that I think might be an apt comparison is like, not me, but I feel like a lot of people in America say ho all the time. Like a lot of people use it all the time. Always makes me very uncomfortable. I do not use it. Just want to clarify that right away. But like you know, it's kind of like that where, unless I'm wrong, and that word is relatively common in the UK, like, it gets said here a lot, and I'm sure that if you said it in the UK, people would know what you meant. But cow is like that, where like I know mostly just from like watching TV shows and having some conversations with British friends and stuff like that, that cow is relatively common over there. It's not common as a insult to a woman over here. Oh well, it's decently common. Decently common. And sometimes it's totally like well, I don't know about harmless, but like well, I mean, sometimes it is meant harmlessly. Like a couple of like girls hanging out and whatever, and one will be like, "Oh my God, you're such a hoe," and like, I mean, that's fine since the primary power of that insult is gendered. Like, whatever. But it's used decently often. It's not like polite company. Like you wouldn't say it at Christmas dinner, but yeah. And I don't think you'd call someone a cow at Christmas dinner either. So that's maybe the best comparison I can think of off the top of my head without giving it too much thought. All right. Hey, what's up, Rhino? Do 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 do. Mayhap you would take it, but I do not yet grant it, said Jordell. I know not what you have feared from me these past months, but I do not mean to bring the king's justice upon you. We do not trouble ourselves with such things. Ah, you trouble... Yes. No, you trouble yourselves with things much darker, said Zane. Things I know little of and have little wish to learn about. Darker than you might imagine, said Jordell, though not dishonorable for the most part. But come, let us speak of these things over wine, where I may explain my cause. I have earned that much at least. Yeah, exactly. Right. And again, if two girls are like really good friends and whatever, and want to call each other that's totally fine. But for me to use it in a general term or sort of offhanded term, like, it's not that my characters can't say that or that I would ever, I've used the word bitch a lot in my books, like over the course of everything that I've written. But in Underrealm specifically, where I'm trying to create this world that has very definite attitudes towards gender as well as race and everything like that, I can't create a false equivalence between bitch and any male oriented word that I might not invent, but that I might use, like steer. Like steer, you can totally get analytically how that is a male-oriented, gender-specific insult, but it doesn't produce a visceral reaction in you based on your own life experiences and having heard the word steer be used before. And bitch does. And I can't pretend that that's not the case, right? So it's like, yeah. Do. All right. Still, Zane was reluctant, and for a moment Lauren thought he would refuse, but with a wary look he nodded and let Jordell lead them on. They did not go far. Soon Jordell opened the door to a small tavern with a cold hearth. The place felt close and stuffy, and though it was mostly empty, their voices did not carry far. It was as though the thick air, which was even soggier than outside, formed a thick cloud. Used thick twice in very quick succession. It was as though the air, which was even soggier than outside, formed a thick cloud that stilled the voice. Yeah, that works. It was as though the air, which was even soggier than outside, formed a thick cloud that stilled the voice. It felt like a place for discussing dark deeds and terrible secrets, and Lauren immediately wished to leave. Jordell led them to a table in the corner and ordered a bottle of wine with 4 cups, while the innkeeper bustled to bring the drink. Lauren studied Vivian. The woman had remained silent ever since they left the constable station, though her eyes rarely left Zane's face, and she held herself taut as a bowstring. She caught Lauren staring at her once or twice, but her predator's smile only widened. At last the wine appeared, and the innkeeper vanished. Lauren leaned forwards to speak before Jordell could begin. "I do not relish the thought of speaking with this one present," said Lauren, pointing at Vivian. "She has pursued us since Redbrook and nearly killed us upon the river." "Yes, I have heard the tale," said Jordell, "but Vivian is a loyal member of my order and has been of great service. Though our paths have rarely crossed, I have heard only the highest praise." Vivian folded her arms on the table and spoke in a voice of silk. "You misunderstand me if you think I bore you animosity, or indeed if you thought I pursued either of you. It was only the Yaren girl I recognized, or thought I did. Her family and I have many dealings, and I thought it prudent to return their wayward child. Where is she, by the by?" "Never you mind," spat Zane. "If you bore us no ill will, you had a queer way of showing it. You almost sank our vessel upon the Dragon's Tail." "You did sink my vessel," said Vivian. Sometimes, I just want to say, just to in defense of myself, sometimes I laugh really hard at a line that's not that funny, and it's not because my ego is so massive that I think I'm hilarious, even when I'm definitely... That is not a funny line, right? But I am picturing, oftentimes, I'm always picturing the film version, the visual adaptation, film or television, however it happens. Oftentimes I'm picturing a particular actor delivering that line. Not always a particular actor, like in this case, yes, but... And I'm picturing it then, and the way it's going to be set up and filmed and delivered, and that's usually why I laugh when it's not particularly funny. Okay? Just so nobody's like, "Oh my god, this guy, that's not funny, why are you laughing, you moron?" "You did sink my vessel," said Vivian. "A curious thing, for I had thought you would be weak when I caught you, yet you withstood me at my full strength. How was that done, may I ask?" "I was born with a powerful gift," muttered Zane, "though it has seemed more and more like a curse of late." "It must be very powerful to have beaten me so thoroughly." Vivian tapped a fingernail against her teeth, studying him. "Hey, Sim Lover, what's up?" Zane's nostrils flared, and Lauren thought of the Mage Stones. The family Yaren had dealt in the things for many years. If Vivian had befriended that family, she might know of their smuggling. Did the mystic suspect Zane of using the stones? Would she even care? Lauren still knew far too little about the things to guess. "Enough of this," said Jordell. Vivian and Zane broke off from staring at each other and looked down at their cups. "You continue your swordplay of words, Zane, but I tell you again that I mean you no harm. Already I have commanded Vivian to withhold her hand from you, but..." Pretty good, pretty good. Feeling good about this book. And already I have commanded Vivian to withhold her hand from you, as well as all who travel with you, as well as any. Rhino, so technically I have some books that are not connected, right? I wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books before I started writing my Underrealm books, but all of the books that actually sell are all connected. Let's see if this works. Nope. Okay, there is the... list of all of the Underrealm books. So all of those are connected. And there are books on that list. That is actually, just as a point of reference, that is actually the chronological order. In other words, what I would envision as like the best possible order to read the books in. And unfortunately, it does include some books in the middle of the order that have not been put out yet, for which I apologize. They're drinking out of cups, chicken sandwich. They're in a tavern. They're not in some palace or something like that. All right. Yeah, I understand completely. I wrote for many years. Well, I say many years. I've only been doing this professionally for about 4 years now. But for the first 3 years I was writing, I was writing while also doing other things, and it was hard, like really, really hard. Felix, oh my God. Yeah, no, I hear you, Rhino. Already I have commanded Vivian to withhold her hand from you, as well as any who travel with you. She will tell the family Aaron nothing of the girl Annis, nothing more than she has already, I should say. Does that satisfy you? He looked from Zane to Lauren. The wizard would not answer, but Lauren nodded. It satisfies me, if she holds to her word. I will obey my commander, said Vivian, but Lauren thought she heard annoyance in the woman's words. Then let us return to the matter at hand, said Lauren. You have found me again, Jordell, and Zane into the bargain. I want to know what you mean to do with us, and how did you find us in any case? The 9 lands are wide. Jordell shook his head slowly. Still you ignore what I told you often in Cabras. In the fabric of this world, some strings are woven close and some far apart. Some are intertwined, bound together, and find it hard to break free. You blame fate, then, said Lauren. You will pardon me if I think there is more to it. I am not blameless, it is true, said Jordell. When you left me, I tried to follow your tracks, but once they met the river, I knew it for a fool's errand. You could have gone anywhere. I sent Seth to Redbrook to search there and took a horse southwest here to Wellmont. Though it seemed an unlikely destination after you and I had discovered the mercenaries, still I felt a pressing need to see the city. For one thing, I hoped to warn them before the sellswords came. My road took me along the north bank of the Dragon's Tail, and that is how I chanced upon Vivian's ship. I found her the day after her battle with Zane, and she told me what had happened. I recognized you from her description of the riverboat's passengers, and I knew I had taken the right course. Then I hastened my steps, trying to reach Wellmont before you could leave it for some other place. I've only arrived today, and no sooner had I instructed the constables to search for you than you walked in the front door. A pretty tale, if it is true, growled Zane. What of the other mystics in the constable station, said Lauren. Who are they, and how did they come to be here? The mystics have long had a presence in Wellmont, said Vivian, though we have no stronghold as we do in many other cities. They were assigned to help us find you. Reading Mystic, Sim Lover. Do. But while you may think my journey the more important part of the story, it is not, said Jordell. An army marches towards Wellmont still, and I think it will grow larger the closer it gets, as Dorsey finds more sellswords to join the host. I have warned the city, but that is the most we can do. I fear Dorsey means to level Wellmont for good. Lauren looked at Zane, and he gave her a slow nod. I told him as much, though he did not believe me, she said. We mean to leave the city as soon as we can. Yet you found the gates barred and had no way to attempt the journey, said Jordell, nodding. I thought that might be the case, but under my badge we may yet leave the city without incident. I cannot imagine that is the end of your plan, said Zane. I do not doubt you have further schemes for us, Mystic, and I would sooner march myself back to the constables and sleep in their cells until I rot. Before Jor-Del could answer, Vivian turned to him with disbelief. You mean to flee? We should aid the city. With such a powerful wizard in its defense, and here she looked at Zane, the Dorshans cannot hope to breach the walls. I have no interest in the wars of the Nine Lands, said Zane, and less in fighting by the side of a woman who tried to kill me only a few days past. I will not say I share your sentiment, Zane, said Jor-Del. All conflicts bear some import in the work of my order, said Jor-Del again. That is odd. Oh, hope you're enjoying it, Sim Lover. Okay, so it ended up. I will not share. I will not. I will not say I share Zane's sentiment, Jor-Del told her. All conflicts bear some import in the work of our order, but we cannot lend our strength in this battle, for we would risk losing a far greater war. I am sorry, Vivian, for I know you once called this city your home. If you wish to stay and aid it, I will raise no hand to stop you. What good? Oh, thank you. Yay. Please tell me when you finish it. I want to hear your thoughts. What good would I do on my own, said Vivian. For the first time, Lauren saw her cool mask slip. An angry fire burned in her eyes. We are meant to maintain order. I would call it an angry. I would call it an angry fire. But I would call it a happy light. But it would be basically the same thing or the same idea. Do. What good would I do on my own, said Vivian. Her frigid mask slipped away as an angry fire burned in her eyes. We are meant to maintain order. The fall of Wellmont would throw the whole south of Selvin into chaos. How can you turn away? His jaw clenched. We forsake all ties when we don our cloaks, Vivian. I've permitted you to remain if you wish. Do not ask for more, lest I revoke that privilege. I don't think we need to say Vivian again. I've noticed that's another thing I do. Vivian turned from him, and her gaze drifted far away. Lauren saw the woman's mask slide gradually back into place, and soon it was as if there had never been any emotion there at all, only a smug indifference. As for us, we will leave her at our earliest convenience, said Jordell. Do you still have the urchin and the Yeren girl with you? Yes, said Lauren. They remain at the inn where we stayed the night. Good, said Jordell. They too should come. The Yeren girl may be of quite some use, and neither of them deserves to stay here while the city is at war. No one is more eager than I to leave this place, said Zane, but I will not go with you, Mystic. Zane, I implore you, said Jordell earnestly. There are great forces at work in Selvin and across all lands. Men like yourself may be our only hope of thwarting them, and darkness gathers. People like yourself. Zane, I implore you, said Jordell earnestly. There are great forces at work in Selvin and across all lands. One such as you may be our only hope of thwarting them, but darkness gathers. What do I care for that, said Zane. Only one thing concerns me, a boy who waits for me upon the High King's seat. Lauren saw him pick at his elbow and noticed he had almost worn through the fabric of his sleeve. You mean your son, said Jordell. I know what happened to you on the seat. And if that is your only worry, I can ensure he has returned to you. That stunned Zane to silence. Even Lauren was taken aback, for she had not known Jordell knew of the wizard's child. The mystic had never mentioned it before. But Zane recovered swiftly. So you say, and yet if it means entering into dealings with you and your order, I will not risk it. It would only bring greater sorrow upon him in the end. I will retrieve him by my own devices or not at all. Jordell's hands clenched, and Lauren saw a flash in his eyes that frightened her. Wizards are supposed to be men of learning, but your blind prejudice may be the doom of us all. Will you give me no measure of faith? None willingly. You ask for trust, yet you tell me of whispered secrets and gathering darkness. You have given no faith yourself. Jordell studied him for a little while, and then spoke in a heavy tone. Very well, you leave me little choice. Zane's hand leapt up, and with an arcane word his eyes began to glow. But in an instant Jordell jumped across the table and seized his wrist, twisting it until Zane cried out. Vivian gestured, and Zane's arms slammed to his sides, his body cavorting like a marionette. Stay your hand, wizard, cried Jordell. I did not mean that I would bring you harm, and your suspicion suits you ill. Hear my words, nothing more. Zane glared at him, with hatred plain in his eyes, but he could do nothing. At last he gave a curt nod, and Jordell released his wrist. The tavern's keeper and some of the other patrons had stopped to give them odd looks, but at a glance from Jordell they returned to their drinks. You ask for faith, said Jordell. I will give it to you. Let us speak privately. I will tell you all that I know, which is too much, as many in my order would be quick to remind me. And when I am done, you will wish I had held my tongue, but if that is the only way to earn your trust, let it be so. Will you agree? Zane studied him silently for a long moment, and his fingers drummed on the table. Vivian's eyes sparkled with interest. Why would you do this? Zane said at last. All of this, the pursuit and this council. And do not tell me again how important I am. I do not trust the flattery of mystics. I never flatter, said Jordell, and when I tell you that your gifts are needed, it is only because I have never believed anything more. Tell me now, will you hear me? More drumming, and then Zane reached over to pick at his elbow. Lauren noticed again how gaunt his cheeks had become. Worse since they entered Wellmont, not better. Very well, Mystic, said Zane with a heavy sigh. Let us speak and lay all our knowledge before each other. Then I may refuse you with a clear mind and both eyes open. Jordell shook his head slowly. If you refuse me when I have told you all, then you are not the man I thought you were. Dun, dun, dun! All right. That's chapter 22 done. Took a while, unfortunately, but that's all right. We've been talking, we've been chatting, we've been having a good time. But it has been almost an hour, and I'm going to get up, get a little walking around done, probably make myself a fresh pot of coffee, and I'll be back in about 10 minutos. Don't go anywhere, or do. I'm not the boss. I'm not in command of your life. You do what's good for you. Take care of yourself first, okay? I hope you're doing well. All right, I'll be right back. Opa, opa, we're back. Coffee pot taking forever. Hey, Clooney Man, I am back. My apologies. No, I don't, Prodigium. What do they say? I was not taking a poop. I was not pooping. Lies. Lies and deceit. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Oh, no. Oh, which is, yeah, it's not to say that I never take a poop on stream. I mean, well, no, that's let me phrase this a correct way. I never take a poop on stream. Let's start with that. Let's have that be the first stable point of reference, okay? Secondly, I do take bathroom breaks while I'm streaming, and on some of those breaks, I do poop. But that is not what occurred just now. My coffee pot just took forever to actually brew my coffee. All right. Chapter 23. Did we mark off 22 as done? We did, right? I'm pretty sure we did. We did. All right. Chapter 23. They finished their cups in haste. The day had worn on, and so they returned to the inn where Jem and Annis waited. Vivian accompanied them, much to the displeasure of Lauren and Zane. The children leapt up in joy when Lauren entered the room, but recoiled in fear at the sight of the mystics. Be still, said Lauren, raising a hand to calm them. Vivian is under Jordel's thrall and has pledged to do us no harm. Annis, your family will learn nothing of you from her. Do you believe her promises? Said Annis. She has the smile of a jackal and serpent's eyes. Such charming words from a child of the family Aaron, said Vivian. Your breeding shows well. Lauren decided to ignore that. I do not believe her, she said, but I have decided to believe Jordel, at least in this. Jem, for his part, seemed pleased to see the mystic again and reached out to grip wrists. Jordel returned the boy's grasp with a grave nod before Jem turned back to Lauren. What happened when the constables took you? They took us to Jordel, said Lauren. That is, they took us to their station and Jordel was there. It was sheer happenstance. I was curious about that, said Vivian. They brought you in for petty thievery. Tell me, why did you take that purse from the woodsman? Lauren looked her in the eye. As I said before, he spun a tale. We stole nothing and were apprehended without cause. From the corner of her eye, she saw Jem slide something out of sight with his foot. It looked very much like a purse of coins. Vivian met her gaze a long moment and then turned to Jordel. This one is too skilled a liar, she said lightly, as though praising the green in Lauren's eyes. The wizard admitted the theft, and yet I can see no falsehood in her expression. What makes you think I am lying? Mayhap the wizard was mistaken. If this was the only victory she could win against Vivian, Lauren would take it. Oh, thanks for the host, Fallen Clown. Auto-host, I guess, but still, thank you. I appreciate it. Mega, Super Lionheart. What should I call you? I'll call you Mega. I'll call you Mega. I like that. Mega, are you a writer as well? Oh, I think nothing, said Vivian, and there was sudden venom in her voice. I know you are lying. Everything about you stinks of a liar. Then she smiled, and the venom disappeared. I suppose I am able to tell because we are so much alike. Lauren shuddered. Jordel had watched all this passively, though Lauren noted that he looked at Vivian with something like disapproval. Now he turned to Zane. You would do well to rest tonight before we speak on the morrow. It looks as though your road here was unkind, and many sleepless nights await you. Awesome, yay! Mayhap the road was unkind, or mayhap fellow travelers upon it, said Zane, glaring at Vivian, but I feel as well as can be expected. My strength has never been greater. As you say, said Jordel, nodding, we shall meet in the morning, and though I believe you will keep your word and remain here, I hope you do not blame me if I have 2 men stand guard downstairs to ensure it. If I blame you, will it change your mind? Said Zane. It will not. Then I will not. Where shall we meet you? Said Lauren. Jordel gave her a stern look. I'm sorry, but it seems you have misunderstood. I mean to speak only to Zane. What? Said Lauren, putting her hands on her hips. I traveled with you across half of Selvin, and with him across the other half. I deserve to hear your words as much as anyone else. What you deserve has little to do with it. My words for him are of dire importance, and many would think they should not be shared at all. I'm only fortunate that I outrank most of those who believe so. Lauren saw Vivian's eyes flash again. You mean to leave me waiting on your doorstep while the two of you discuss matters of great importance? Said Lauren. I will not be left out in the cold. It is the midst of summer, and you may wait wherever you wish, said Jordell. But still my words are for Zane's ears alone. You seem to have regained some of your faith since you abandoned me on the King's Road. If that is so, trust me in this. Lauren wanted to shout at him to give him 1,000 reasons he was wrong, but she could think of none, for she knew nothing of the dark news he withheld. She folded her arms and turned away from him in a sullen silence. Jordell seemed to take that for an answer, for he spoke again to Zane. You will find me at the constable station where we met today. I will see you in the morning. No doubt you will, grumbled the wizard. A Martian? What you talking about? Oh, green one. Green Rider. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Hilarious. No doubt you will, grumbled the wizard. I can trust your word in this, said Jordell. Remember, Zane, I have no darker motive than your own good, and you will regain your son upon my honor. Yes, yes, said Zane, waving a hand. I have heard this before. Leave, or you will press me too hard, and I shall change my mind. Go. Jordell gave a nod and left. After giving them a final, uncomfortably familiar look, Vivian followed. Okay, we have to fix that. Lauren waited long enough for them to move out of earshot and then checked the hallway to ensure they had left before she spoke to Zane. I assume you do not mean to attend the meeting he has offered? But to her surprise, Zane heaved a sigh. I suppose that I shall, actually. I've only a half-formed idea of using mage stones to blast my son's way to freedom. Who knows what Jordell may accomplish? Hearing his words cannot do my cause any greater harm than it has suffered already. And besides, his plan for leaving the city seems safer than our own. If he must be betrayed, we can do it once he has secured our escape. I'm only glad he is back, said Jem. At Lauren's frown, the boy shrugged. I bore him none of the ill will you felt. He saved my life, after all, and ended many others, said Lauren, and now Vivian stands at his side. Where does she come from, anyway? Anna shivered under her patchwork cloak. I do not like the way she looked at me, nor do I have your faith in this Jordell. Zane told me plenty of tales about the mystics when we traveled to King's Road in pursuit of you. Even if Vivian seeks to betray you, she could bring no word to your family until long after we have left this place, said Lauren. And I think she means to stay here to aid Wellmont in its siege against Dorsey. I hope that is true, said Annis. I would not spend one moment longer at her side than I needed to. Did you hear how she spoke of my family and breeding? She is a serpent in human form. That I doubt, said Zane, for she is a mentalist and not a therianthrope. He smiled, but Lauren, Jem, and Annis looked at him blankly. As he caught their looks, his smile soured, and he rubbed his arms as though cold. A jest for mages, I suppose. Some therianthropes, were-mages you call them, can take the form of a serpent. It was only a jest. Jem gave him a gentle pat on the arm and a condescending smile. Leave the jests to those with quicker tongues, wizard. Stick to your magic. You seem skilled enough at that. Zane shoved his arm away and left the room. Jem is such a dick! Love it. Oh, both children had many questions about what had happened after Lauren and Zane were captured, but Lauren gave them the whole account. They also wanted to know about Jordell and Vivian, but for the most part, Lauren had no answers. When they had exhausted themselves with asking, and Lauren had told them what she could, she went downstairs to find Zane in the common room. With her, she brought a coin from Jem's stolen purse to pay for another night's stay and food for them all. Downstairs, she noticed two figures in red cloaks by the front door. Their cowls were thrown forward so that Lauren could not see their faces. She guessed these were the mystics Jordell had left to guard against Zane's escape. She gave each a long look, and one by one they turned away. Lauren found the wizard deep into a bowl of questionable stew and halfway through a mug of dark ale. Another empty mug sat beside the first, and an empty bowl beside the one he ate from. Lauren motioned to the innkeeper for a cup of wine and sat in silence before the wizard. He ate busily for a while, as if oblivious to her presence. Soon his bowl was empty, and he drained the rest of his ale in a single long pull. Only then did he look up at her, wiping the foam from his scrub of beard. You seem ravenous, she said. We ate poorly upon the river. It was true, but they had all sated their hunger long since, and Lauren well knew it. What do you want from me, girl? I cannot move the mystic's mind, and it seems he will hold counsel with none but myself. She had cut to the heart of the matter. He had cut to the heart of the matter, to Lauren's surprise, but she took it in stride, placing both elbows on the table as she leaned forwards. But you could tell me after, she said. I want to know of these great matters he purports to hold as a secret. Purports. Is purports the right word? don't think that is the right word. Gotta love that Google. Oh, Mega, it's not, honestly, I ask a lot of rhetorical questions while I'm writing, but I don't necessarily expect real answers. In fact, most of the time, and this is just a thing with me, but most of the time I kind of prefer not to get real answers. A lot of times people, you know, who are new or whatever will like come in and they'll like make suggestions on like what I'm writing or what I'm editing as I'm working on it, and like that doesn't help me just because it's usually not in, you know, they're not really in my head. They don't like, I have a particular way I like to do things, blah 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 blah, all that bullshit. So sorry, I have to send one text. It's a difficult thing about writing these days, and I say difficult realizing exactly how privileged I am when I say that, but I am also running my business at the same time, and so I have to like answer urgent emails sometimes and texts from my business partner, aka my wife. By the way, that's a wonderful working arrangement. Just as a note. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be for everybody, but having a business partner who I'm also sleeping with works great for me. All right. I want to know if these great matters he means to hold as a secret. It could be nothing, said Zane. Some conspiracy by some lesser nobles. That's two sums pretty close together. Some conspiracy by lesser nobles to seize a throne in the Outland Kingdom. I do word echoes a lot. That's one thing I always try to watch out for in my writing. The same word too often, too close together. Excuse me. Excuse. It could be nothing, some conspiracy by lesser nobles to seize a throne in the Outland Kingdoms. Mystics are known to place greater importance in things than they deserve. Lauren thought of Jordel's icy blue eyes, of his stern mouth, so often smirking and so rarely frowning. Jordel does not seem the kind of man who would call a thing important unless it truly was. Oh, and what do you know of him? A serving woman came with Lauren's wine, and Zane motioned for another mug of ale. You've known him less time than you have known me, and still you know precious little about my past. It takes me hardly any time to take the measure of a man, but you avoid the point. Whatever Jordel says to you tomorrow, be it of high import or low, I want you to tell me. She took a sip of the wine. Lauren had never drunk in the Birchwood, and compared every cup to the first she had had with Damaris and Cabras. That had been fine stuff, sweet and heady. What she drank now was base swill by comparison, but still it brought a lightness to her thoughts that she rather enjoyed. Chicken sandwich. Do you do character vocabulary like one person uses X words more than others? Yes, to a degree. And certain characters are more well-spoken than others, right? but I don't place. More important to me than vocabulary is voice. Annis has a particular way of speaking. Jem has a particular way of speaking. Jordell has a particular way of speaking. Lauren has a particular way of speaking. Zane, etc., etc., etc. And if you there's a piece of advice that I actually got from screenwriting, and I forget who exactly said this, or where this comes from. It might actually be from Save the Cat, which, by the way, if you don't already have it, where is it? Oh, right, my nonfiction shelf is now across the room. I should actually have it over here somewhere. But Save the Cat, I think it might be from Save the Cat, where basically you should be able to take a script, a page of a script, and block out all the character names. Cover them up completely so that you can't see the character names. And you should still be able to identify which character is saying every line. And that's when your characters are really well defined and when their dialogue is really well defined. And I try, I'm sure I don't do that. I'm sure if I covered all of the dialogue tags in my whole book, I would get confused. Well, I wouldn't get confused because I wrote the thing and I would know, but I'm sure readers would get confused. But that is a thing that I go for, is that they all have a particular way of speaking, or that their characteristics are well enough defined that you know who they are based on the way that they talk and how they express themselves. do. Zane shrugged. I will tell you whatever secrets the mystic imparts upon me then, though I fear you will be disappointed. Do not be so sure, said Lauren, taking another sip. Even small bits of knowledge can be useful if one can gather enough of them. Men at once brought down a mighty king with the strength of a single whispered word. Zane burst into laughter. His ale arrived, and he kept laughing as he drank deep, sending splashes of it to darken his coat. Menet, now you talk of stories and legends. Not all legends are pure fancy, said Lauren. Menet's are. Do not tell me you believe his tales to be true. It is likely no one named Menet ever lived at all. Lauren's ears burned, and she glared at the wizard. Of course he did. There are 1,000 tales of him. How could they all be false? How could they all be true? You've lived a life of adventure for months now. Have you done even one great deed worthy of a story? Have you had the chance? How could you have done 1,000? How could you have 1,000 such chances in a lifetime? I am young yet. The wizard's words angered her, but she did not know why. Of course, some of Menet's stories must be flights of fancy, but to doubt his very existence? She had never considered that, and she did not like it. Then she remembered how she had escaped from Roussel and Cabras, and besides, some of his tales are certainly true. I have already used one to escape my prison. Mega, I do not. I stream whenever I can, whenever I want to, and I would love to have a consistent streaming schedule, and I don't. It just doesn't work out. It doesn't work for me. Sometimes I want to stay up late. Sometimes I want to get up early. Most times that is not the case. So I don't. Sorry, I wish I did. I try to stream every day during business hours, but I'm going to, this stream's going to go for a long time. So, well, thank you very much. Yeah, giving a free book for your email list is it's pretty common among indie authors, but it still works really well. And it's something that you can also do Facebook ads for. And I've been doing Facebook ads for a long time to get people on my list. And it not only gives them the free book, but it introduces them to all the rest of my books. So that's my primary marketing drive, my marketing thrust. Then she remembered how she had escaped from Roussel and Cabras, and besides, some of his tales are certainly true. I have already used one to escape my prison. Zane ignored that. He had grown silent and intent, studying her face as though seeing her for the first time. Lauren found his gaze uncomfortable. His cheeks seemed even more hollow in the dim glow of the fireplace, and his hair had grown thin and stringy. She thought suddenly that he looked like a skull with its skin stretched too tight, a scrap of wig desperately clinging to the top. But as sallow as his face seemed, his eyes had lost none of their vigor. In fact, they gleamed brighter than ever and bore some hint of a glow even though he used no magic. It was a frightening visage, and Lauren found herself wishing he would look away. I feel I understand you at last, he said quietly. That day I found you in the woods, you did not only seek to escape your home. You meant to find for yourself a life of adventure, some mighty quest that would lead you across the 9 lands in search of fame and glory. You meant to become Minute. Lauren scowled and took another sip of wine. Do not be ridiculous. Minute had a cloak of shadows and the blessings of the darkness itself. How could I hope to become that? Zane laughed again, and this time it came harsh and scornful. You prove yourself out. You have already gained for yourself a cloak of deep black, and you call yourself the Nightblade. Oh, this is rich. You seek to live the elf-tale life of a man who never even lived at all. Lauren wanted to strike him and flee from the table all at the same time. Because they tell tales of him does not mean he did not live. People tell tales of the Wizard Kings, too. Do you think they were only a flight of fancy? That sobered him. You compare the sun to the moons. We still feel the echoes of the Wizard King's power today. Laws exist, written in ancient texts from the days of their dark rule. And the story of Minute helped me bend bars of steel using only cloth. Bars of iron. Need to fix that. Because that trick would not have worked if the bars were made of steel. Hey, what's up, KJ Jones? And a story of Minute helped me bend bars of iron using only cloth, said Lauren triumphantly. Zane's mood darkened further, but he waved a hand in dismissal. Very well, believe what you wish, only stop trying to pull me down your mad path of fancy. I would discuss with you another matter. It was a poor victory, but a victory nonetheless, and Lauren let it go. You finished book 4? Yeah, I got your email. Yay! Zane leaned forwards and his eyes grew hungry. After I speak to Jordell, I do not mean to go along with his plan. This you know. Of course, said Lauren, nodding, though he may convince you. He will not, Zane insisted. I may pledge myself to him anyway. We must escape the city, after all. But he may suspect a trick and so refuse my service. Lauren knew that for the truth. Zane's tongue was as clumsy as a drunk merchant. And if he does, what then? I have another plan for escape, said Zane, speaking quickly now. But for it to work, I will need another mage stone. Lauren felt her heart skip, and she did not know why. Tell me your plan, she said, not sure how to refuse him outright. With the power of a single stone, I could blast a hole in the city wall. Nothing dangerous, just large enough for one to slip through at a time, but enough for the 4 of us to flee. It would be over in a moment before the guards could react. Lauren stared at him, and then the armies of Dorsey would widen that crack and come pouring through to kill everyone here. Zane blinked. I had not thought of that. But no, we could do it on the wall's northern side. The Dorsians would have to cross the river to reach it, and could not do so before Wellmont sealed the wall behind us, leaving it weak and ripe for sapping. And you have forgotten that a second army approaches from the north even now. Besides, the guards could easily shoot us with arrows. Very well, said Zane quickly. I could use wind to lift us over the wall, flying away like birds. And they would shoot us down just the same, said Lauren, shaking her head. No, Zane, our best and safest route of escape is still to purchase our way upon a wagon. What we stole yesterday should be enough. Zane slammed a hand on the table. I am telling you, we must use another... He caught himself at the last minute, and looking around, Lorne saw that all eyes in the common room had turned to him, including those of the mystics by the door. He glared at them until they looked away, and then leaned in to whisper. "A mage stone," he said. "It is the only way to be sure." Lauren steeled herself. "No, Zane, I will not. We agreed that you would receive your half when we reached your contact in Dorsey." "But it is my share, is it not?" said Zane angrily. "Or do you mean to cheat me out of what is mine?" "Of course not, but I will not have you squander it all before we arrive. You must save some for your son's rescue, or have you forgotten him?" She had pushed him too far, and she knew it before the words left her mouth. Zane snarled, and his hand clenched on the table. But suddenly he winced and lifted his hand, and Lauren saw that the motion had driven a splinter deep into his flesh. Zane stared at it for a moment as though woken from a dream. His eyes rose to her. You are right. We shall escape with Jordell. That is safest." Something had changed in his eyes, and for a moment he looked as he had when Lauren first spied him in the birchwood. "Zane," Lauren said quietly, "are you all right?" I will be fine. I should go. It seems I have much to learn tomorrow." He stood and left the table, making for the rooms. Lauren watched him go, and somehow she was more frightened than before. Dun, dun, dun! Every chapter ends that way, just in case you were curious. Boom. Character vocabulary. Wouldn't one also know who the character was from where he stands? What do you mean where he stands? How he responds if he is against something. Yeah, totally. Of course. But also, you should work on your character, because no two people do speak the same, right? I speak differently from the way my wife speaks, or my best friend speaks, or the people I hang out with, or whatever. And so style of speech and manner, in the manner in which somebody expresses themselves, is just a point of their character, and it's a sign of a well-developed character if you can tell who they are by the way that they talk. And that is, of course, like, everybody is going to have their own, like, thoughts and opinions and everything like that, and that's one aspect of a character. And that's the thing, is that most people when they have trouble with two-dimensional characters is because they think they are one thing, and they are only that thing, and there is no subtlety or other dimension to them. And good characters are many things, and the more things they are, the better of a character they usually are, just as a general rule, obviously. And the more consistent they are as well. And when they are inconsistent, that is another aspect of them. That is another part of who they are, and that is, there is a reason for that. I mean, people talk about Breaking Bad a lot, but you know, Walt was very consistent, and when he wasn't, it was for a really good reason. So he had a stance, and then he would break that stance for reasons. And those reasons were always really interesting to see, you know? Jesse from Breaking Bad did say bitch a lot. And it was often hilarious when he did. Chapter 24. Lauren rose before dawn the next morning to find that Zane had already left. Annis rose soon after, but Jem snored on and on as if he might never stop. Zane is gone, said Annis. Do you think he will try to run? I do not know, said Lauren, but I would wager not. Jordell posted guards downstairs, and Zane could not have escaped them without some commotion. Enough to wake us here, I think. Together they decided to enter the city. If they were to leave with Jordell, they would need supplies and provisions. Lauren would rather not be beholden to the mystic, since she planned to leave his company the moment she could, and they had enough coin now from their stolen purse to pay for what they needed. Lauren led Annis downstairs, where to her surprise she still saw one figure in a red cloak seated by the common room's front door. She had not thought Jordell meant to guard them as well, since it seemed clear that he was only after Zane. But then the figure rose and approached, casting back its cowl, and Lauren saw that it was Vivian, her dark hair drawn back in careful braids that looped about each other. Despite what Lauren knew of the woman, she looked beautiful, and her smile caught both girls off guard. Risen at last, little songbird, said Vivian smoothly. The morning wears on. It is scarcely past dawn, said Lauren, irritated. Jordell has assigned you to watch us, I suppose. She meant it as an insult, if a weak one. Lauren had gathered that Vivian did not agree with Jordell in everything, and that serving him grated on her, but Vivian only smiled and spread her hands. I am here by my own will. Since Jordell seems in such a rush to leave this city, I gathered that you would need to fetch some supplies. I grew to womanhood upon this city's streets and can take you to all of the best shops. My cloak will provide a better barter than you could gain with even the most silvered tongue. Annis bristled beside her, but Lauren spoke first and kept her tone as civil as Vivian's. We thank you, but we would sooner go alone. So much of the Nine Lands are still unknown to us, and they say a stranger may see more of a new city than the tired eyes of one long accustomed to its sights. Tired old eyes. Tired old eyes is going to be much better there. Another barb, but again Vivian only smiled. My eyes are nearly as fresh as yours, for I have not been home in many years, and it sounds as though you have had many thrilling adventures. Too many minis. My eyes are nearly as fresh as yours, for I have not been home in years, and it sounds as though you have had many thrilling adventures on the long road here. I would have you tell me all about them. We would not speak of them, said Annis angrily. Vivian shrugged. Then I will walk beside you regardless, and mayhap you will find my tales entertaining instead. That piqued Lauren's interest. If indeed Vivian would only talk and not try to pry for information, who knew what they might learn? Very well, she said. We shall need fresh bedrolls for a start. Ours have grown musty, and salted beef and hardtack if they can be found. In plenty, and many finer things to eat besides, said Vivian. Come, I will take you to the clothier's first. Bedrolls are not in high demand, and they shall likely have to make yours on the spot. Lead the way. Lauren quieted Annis with a look. The girl was fuming. It will not be so bad, she whispered as Vivian turned. Mayhap we can learn something of value. Annis did not look pleased, but neither did she speak against going with the mystic, so the three of them set out upon the city, Vivian swiftly taking them north and west to the craftsman's quarter. The streets were quiet, and what few people they saw walking did not let their gaze linger anywhere for long. Lauren had felt a pall upon the city yesterday, and it seemed to have worsened since. They await the next attack, said Vivian. It wears heavily on every nerve, though they do their best to hide it. The city has seen many wars, has it not? Said Lauren. Oh. In the game she played in Game of Thrones? I don't remember which game. Many, yes, though war might be a strong word, said Vivian. Often do the Dortian hounds yap at our heels seeking to avenge some imagined slight. Most times they come and bray at the walls for a day or two before slinking back to their homes, often without a drop of spilled blood. Other times a few lives are lost on either side, victims of stray arrows. Never in my life have swords clashed upon the southern wall, not until now at any rate. How bad was it, said Lauren. They managed to scale the wall in 3 places, but each time they were thrown back quickly. Some of our guards were wounded, but none killed. The Dortians lost a score of men. She seemed to grow more earnest with each word, her mask slipping away as it had in the tavern the day before. Her voice took on more life than Lauren had heard in it, proud when she spoke of Wellmont, livid when she mentioned the Dortians. If Lauren could only keep her talking, she might reveal much indeed. That sounds like a victory, said Lauren. What then worries these people so? Jordell is to blame for that, though I bear him no grudge. The city felt it had nothing to fear, for though the Dortian host is great, they had no way to pressure our northern wall. Supplies would have no trouble reaching us, or so we believe. Now Jordell has told them of the sellsword army, which even now marches upon us from the northeast. When they arrive, we will be hard-pressed, but our walls are strong yet. We will best them. More than that, we will destroy them. While Selvin does not lightly put forth its strength in war, neither does that mean that Wellmont has grown weak. Vivian spat the last with fury, and Lauren fell silent. The quiet lasted too long, for Lauren saw Vivian's mask return again, all calm and without a single angry line upon her brow. You must forgive me for going on so long. As I am a child of this city, its fate weighs heavily on my mind. Opa. But I have heard nothing of you, Lauren of the family Nelda. I do not know that name. Where is it from? Do you hail from here in Selvin or some other kingdom? I come from a nameless village in a forest you would never have heard of, said Lauren. It is a place of little interest to me or to anyone else. Surely each of us holds our homes to be important, at least in a small way, Vivian pressed. Only one thing in the birchwood was important, and I am not likely to see him again, thought Lauren. Only one thing, and I am not likely to see him again. Because she would not think of Chet as a thing. Only one person in the birchwood was important, and I am not likely to see him again, thought Lauren, but she would no sooner have told Vivian about Chet than she would have revealed her dagger. No, thank Corey Unloaded. I mentioned this before, but I don't actually generally want like suggestions unless I specifically ask for them. Just because it's not. There's usually like a whole thought process that goes on in my mind. Sometimes I will like invite suggestions like, hey, what should we name this town? And then like people have actually named things that are in my book, but I appreciate it. But but yeah, when it comes to like language and stuff like that, like I'm very particular about things. Only one person in the birchwood was important, and I am not likely to see him again, revealed her dagger. Such words come easily when you hail from a great city, she said. You flatter me, said Vivian, with a small bow, hardly more than a nod of the head. If you will not tell me whence you come, then mayhap the little one will tell me where she means to go? You must know that your family seeks you eagerly, and if I will not tell them of your whereabouts, that does not mean others will be as restrained. Where will you hide from their watchful eyes? You think me a fool? Snapped Annis. If I tell you, I may as well whisper it into my mother's ears. I have given my word, and I am sorry that means so little to you, said Vivian, giving a sorrowful shake of her head that Lauren knew for farce. But here, we have reached our first destination. It was a small clothier's shop with a green sign hanging above the door. The mystic gestured them in, where a buxom woman greeted them warmly. Vivian she received with particular grace, bowing low and remarking upon the lovely state of her cloak. True enough, the cloak looked lustrous, vivid as if it were brand new, a stark contrast to Jordel's faded and threadbare garment. Only half as fine as the poorest item in your shop, I am afraid, said Vivian. The clothier blushed. In no time the woman had cut them 4 new bedrolls of a sturdy green cloth, thick and durable, yet soft and comforting. Lauren had never seen such fine fabric used for so mean a purpose. When she asked after the price, the clothier said she would take only a few silver pennies. Come now, said Vivian quickly. A gold weight would be a shrewd price. You cannot give away your wares. I will not take a spot of gold from friends of the mystics, insisted the clothier. Not when rumor has it you have come here to save us from those Doshan dogs. There was a moment's silence, and Lauren felt her chest grow uncomfortably tight. Vivian's face froze in its gentle smile, and for a moment she seemed unable to speak. Will you take 12 silver pennies, good lady? Said Lauren, hoping to break the awkward pause. The clothier looked at her, seeming lost, but she recovered in a moment, smiling brightly and nodding. Lauren reached beneath her cloak for the purse of coins she had taken from beneath Jem's bed and pulled out a fistful of silver. She counted out 16 coins and dropped them into the woman's hand, and then she left before the shopkeeper could realize the mistake. Do the people of Wellmont really believe the mystics will save them? Said Lauren. I had not heard that before, said Vivian stiffly. Imagine their disappointment when Jordel rides out tomorrow and takes all his men with him. But they will still have you, a mighty mind mage. The thought of the Dorshans raising this city troubled her greatly. Lauren might never have played a part in great matters of the Nine Lands, but still she was Selvan-born, and like anyone in her village, had been raised to know the Dorshans as warmongering thieves. Even old Bracken had not held a high opinion of the kingdom to the south, and he had been one of the kindest people Lauren had ever known. Don't worry about it at all, Corey Unloaded. Like it's totally like a personal preference thing, and it's not anything that I would expect somebody to like come to the stream and just know automatically off the top of their head. You know what I mean? So yeah, again, absolutely don't worry about it. Continuing our discussion from earlier of Garrett laughing at his own book even when it's not funny. That I am laughing because nobody has a very high opinion of Dorsey, which is the kingdom in it, anyway. It's one of the kingdoms in the world, and the closest cultural analog for Dorsey is basically America. And they're always getting into wars, and they often get into wars for resources and not for any like actual high purpose. They're kind of loud, they're kind of annoying. They have a very high opinion of themselves, whether or not they deserve that high opinion of themselves. It's America. And the whole rest of Underrealm is like, oh, for fuck's sake, can you guys just stop being so fucking like, ugh. So whenever I criticize Dorsey, it makes me laugh. Vivian gave a small smile, but it had grown cold again, like her demeanor upon the docks in Redbrook. Not so mighty as your friend Zane. You must tell me, how often have you seen him wield such power? I could scarcely believe it. I had witnessed nothing like it from him before, Lauren admitted, but neither have I ever seen a duel of mages. Before that, small bursts of flame and gusts of wind were the extent of his magic, so far as I had seen. It seems he found some inner well of strength, said Vivian. I only hope he is in control of himself. He might have killed me. It seemed I had witnessed nothing like it from him before, Lauren admitted, but neither have I ever seen a duel of mages. Before that, small bursts of flame and gusts of wind were the extent of his magic. that I had observed. Or the extent of what I had observed. It seems he found some inner well of strength, said Vivian. I only hope he is in control of himself. He might have killed me. He would not, said Lauren quickly. Vivian's words are made her think uncomfortably of the mage stones. He holds life more dearly than that. It is one thing we hold in common. Yes, Jordell mentioned something of the kind, said Vivian. I must say I admire your conviction. It would be a better world if all lived with such stringent morality. Lauren looked at her askance. I suppose you mean to say I am a fool. Not a bit. We were all young once. Oh, boy. Lauren did not like that at all and felt certain. A quick reiteration of what I said before. A lot of times I laugh at things in my book that are not particularly funny, and that is because I am imagining the film version of it in my mind and the way that I want to have the actor deliver it. And that is funny, even if the words and the way that I read them are not particularly hilarious. So it's not just me thinking that I'm the funniest person in the world when I know that I'm actually not. I do love my characters. I love Vivian so much. So much. And she's going to be coming, like, she's going to be in a book that's coming at some point in the indeterminate future, like not yet fully determined. And I'm so, Lauren did not like that at all and felt certain Vivian meant to anger her, so she held her silence, and indeed they spoke of nothing important the rest of the day. After a while they had gathered all the provisions they could need, and so as the sun began to set they turned their steps towards the inn. Oh. No matter how Vivian tried to pry more information out of Lauren, she received no answer, and Annis too walked in stony silence. When they returned, they did not find Jem alone. He sat in the room waiting for them with wide eyes, and beside him sat Zane and Jordell. You have returned, said Jordell. That is good, for we have much to plan. We were preparing to leave the city, said Lauren. I hope you have not waited long. She looked at Zane, hoping for some sign of what had transpired, but the wizard would not meet her gaze. We only just arrived here, said Jordell. We spoke of much and more besides throughout the day. My voice is weak from it. And, said Lauren, still looking at Zane, what came of it? Zane finally looked up at her, and she nearly took a step back. The wizard's skin was ghostly white, and while his eyes burned with the same hunger as they always did recently, now they bore heavy clouds of something else. Fear. I will go with Jordell, said Zane. He says he means to travel to Feldamar, but wherever he may lead me, I will follow. Lauren could sense no trace of duplicity in his voice. Shock seized her as she realized the wizard meant what he had said. You will, she said. She meant it to be a question, but her voice failed her. Very well, then, your path is your own to choose. As is yours, said Jordell, but it is my strong hope you will join us. Lauren blinked. Me? Who else? What do you want me for, said Lauren. You know I do not share your purpose. I do not seek blood and death as you have decided, said Jordell. Though the words were harsh, he spoke them gently. You have considerable talents that seem born to you. I would have those talents nurtured and grown, for they will be invaluable in the coming months. Not every fight takes place on the battlefield, nor is every blow struck with a fist. You do mean for me to fight, then, said Lauren. I will not, nor will I leave Annis and Jem to their fate, or have you forgotten them in pursuit of your quest? Of course we will not abandon them, said Jordell. As I said before, they do not deserve to be left here in the midst of a war, and the Yaren girl may be of great use. You speak of use, but not of safety. Lauren saw Vivian from the corner of her eye. The woman studied her with grim amusement, and that only stoked her temper further. I cannot hope to guess at the grand purpose you serve, but you seem to look upon the rest of us as pieces to play against some opponent. That is not an enticing prospect. I know you have plans of your own and mighty dreams, said Jordell. Hey, Zone Raps. Welcome to stream. Welcome to stream. Have free book. In Underrealm, book reads you. In Soviet Underrealm. I know you have plans of your own and mighty dreams, said Jordell. Come with me but a little while, and you will find them closer than ever, almost within your grasp. And I pledge to you this. I will never ask you to do violence. Please, Lauren, this is the best chance for you, Annis, and Jem. I do not doubt your resilience nor your resourcefulness, but it cannot hurt to have powerful allies. Lauren felt torn. Jordell seemed a mighty friend indeed, and if he could promise care for Annis and Jem, how could she refuse? But then in her mind she saw him plunge his sword into the mercenary's chest, saw the cold light in his eyes as he killed 3 men in a blink. "What do you think of all this?" she asked Zane. The wizard had turned his gaze towards the corner as though he had forgotten the rest of them were there. "You seem willing enough to join the mystic. Would you have me do the same?" Zane stared at her blankly, and again she saw that nameless fear drifting in the wizard's eyes. "You must keep your own counsel," he said, his voice a bleak shadow of its former strength. "I would not force any other to step upon this road, not though it might be the only road we have left." Well, it doesn't cost money, but you do have to enter your email address. And basically, like any good drug dealer, I'm willing to give you the first sample for free because I know that you'll buy the second one. Nah. Lauren did not like any of this, neither Jordell's mysterious hints at great danger nor Vivian's gloating smirk. She did not like the way Jem and Anna stared at her as though waiting for an answer, as though both their fates rested on her next words. Even less did she like the way Zane had turned into this dead thing on the bed before her. She tried to speak, but her words were drowned out in a sudden clanging peal of sound, a deep reverberating clash of brass, soon joined by a choir of others throughout the city. Lauren spun towards the door. "What under the sky is that?" "Bells," said Vivian, her voice hushed and furious. "Dorsey is at the gates." Dun, dun, dun! All right. I'm going to go refill my coffee. Hello, Video Garver. You've only been listening a few minutes, but you heard wizard a bunch, so you're in. I'm glad to hear it. Lots of wizards. Although if you want primarily wizards, you want my second series, the Academy Journals. But there's plenty of wizards in the Nightblade Epic as well. I'm going to go refill my coffee and use the restroom. I'll be right back in just a couple of minutes. Greetings. We have returned. Oh, it's been raining like a motherfucker because it's Oregon, so it's always raining like a motherfucker. And I haven't been able to go for like, I like to go for walks, long walks, not on the beach, because it's Oregon. And I haven't been able to go for walks for like the last 3 days, and driving me a little crazy. Just a little bit. Just a little bit crazy. But yeah, it's fun. Oh, yay for outlining. I love meeting other outliners. Yeah, I can't pants it. I've tried. It's not good. Not good. Yeah, I lived in Los Angeles my whole life until August when I moved up here. And yeah, it's never raining there, except when it is, which is not often. Pants liner, I love it. Love it. Chapter 25, Jordell stood. It is too soon, he muttered. I thought they would not attack for another day at least. The northern force must have been closer than our scouts reported. We do not know that the sellswords have reached us, said Vivian. Mayhap the Dorshans are making another feint, but regardless, they will need me on the wall. Go then, said Jordell. Vivian gave Lauren a final look and left. And you, Lauren of the family, Nelda, what say you? If you would go with me, you must go now, or else fall with this city. Lauren tried to answer, but her voice seemed to have fled. On and on the bells pealed, and she could feel each thundering strike deep within her chest. What must she do? What if Jordell led them beyond the gate only to find the flying arrows of the sellswords before them? What if she stayed and the city fell to rubble around her? Yeah, it snowed here like a day before yesterday. Well, yeah, day before yesterday it snowed, not rained. Or no, Friday it snowed. And it snowed like 3 or 4 inches. It was great. It was wonderful. Just enough to go out and have like a little bit of sledding and blah, blah, blah. That's fun. On and on the bells peal. What must she do? What if she stayed in the city, fell to rubble around her? You cannot expect me to decide this now, she said. Not when a host of foes is on our doorstep and these accursed bells will not be silent. She looked up at the roof as though she could spot the bells and somehow pull them from their mountings. I would not, but I have no other choice, said Jordell. What is your answer? Get us out, said Lauren desperately. Get us beyond the city's walls, and then let me answer. You owe me that much, Mystic. I did not ask to find myself in this war, caught between 2 armies while the world falls around me. Nor did Annis and Jem. Let us escape this city, and then we will each answer in our own time. It was not a fair thing to say, mayhap. Jordell had done no more to bring them here than had Annis's mother or Zane. Yet the mystic looked thoughtful at her words, and after a moment he nodded. If that is all you can promise me, I will take it, he said. Only let us leave now. A wagon waits beyond the northern wall. Make ready. Yeah, Jordell. Yeah, my outlines are like super detailed, which actually just makes it easier for me to write. But I know people feel like restricted by them. But I think the key to me is like if I'm writing and I don't like what the outline says, I change it. You know what I mean? And so I think that sense of restriction is kind of self-imposed. It's like, oh, well, if I say that this has to happen in the story, then that has to happen. It's like, no, it's your book. You can do whatever you want to it. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Alone in a crowded room. Spoilers, KJ Jones. Spoilers. Yeah, but see, you can't do that, Prodigium. Like, your characters have to do what they would do as people, right? Although, it's important to remember that even when they do that, like, you are the author, you did create them. I fucking hate it when people are like, oh, well, I had to do that in my story. Oh, I had to do this. Oh, the character had to do this. Like, I'm not in control anymore. And it's like, shut up! Take responsibility for your character, and you created all of these things. You didn't have to do anything, you know? I get the sentiment behind it. It's very cute, but like, can we all just be adults and acknowledge that we put words down on the paper? Do. Lauren gave Jem and Zane their new bedrolls, and the four of them packed their meager things. Shoo-doo. All right. Lauren gave Jem and Zane their new bedrolls, and the four of them packed their meager things. With their supplies slung across their backs, they let Jordell lead them from the inn and into the streets. Where before all had been quiet, with the calm of uneasy waiting, now chaos raged around them. Men and women ran back and forth, some carrying empty buckets, others lugging bags and sacks, the contents of which Lauren could not guess at. Through the masses moved guards and constables, islands of calm and an ocean of fear. In rank and file they marched from many streets, but always south. As they paused to let a column pass through an intersection before them, Lauren turned her gaze to the southern wall. Her breath caught in her throat. In the dimming daylight, the sky glowed red with the light of many fires. Smoke rose from many places. Too many minis. Too many minis! Too many minis on the dance floor. Too many minis. As they paused to let a column pass through the intersection before them, Lauren turned to gaze to the southern wall. Her breath caught in her throat. In the dimming daylight, the sky glowed red with the light of raging fires. Smoke rose from many places, and under each column of it she imagined a home burning. She had a sudden, mad urge to run towards the fighting and see the battle for herself, but Jor-El commanded them to move forwards, and she shook the thought away. And she shook the thought away. They reached the north gates to find them closed and barred. At Jor-El's mighty shout, a pair of guards appeared at the parapet above, scowling down under the helmets of bronze and steel. "Let us out," bellowed Jor-El. "We must leave the city at once." "These gates open for no one," said the guard, "under command of the mayor." "I am of the Order of Mystics," Jor-El's voice rang with an authority and command that Lauren had never heard in it before. His hand rose to his breast, and when it came away, he brandished his silver badge of office, the three-winged rods bound by a circle. "By this badge and the authority of the High King herself, I command you to open the gate." "The High King is 1,000 leagues away and cares little for us," said the other guard, "but the mayor is close and his constables all around, and he has promised to hang any man who opens this gate, however just the reason. Do your duty to the High King, or I will come up there and open it myself." They all jumped at his shout, and the guards paused before replying. "You shall have to, then, but I beg that you do not, my lord, for it is no idle threat. We will hang and our families starve. You do as your duty commands you, and we must do the same." Lauren put a hand on Jor-El's arm. "Do not do it," she said. "We can leave once the battle is done." "Not if the sellswords strike from the north, as I believe they will," said Jor-El. But some of the fire had gone from him, and Lauren could sense it. "Still, we could evade them, at least long enough to escape, and I would not see men come to harm for doing their duty." "Nor should they," said Lauren. Jor-El looked at her, and she wondered if he was thinking of his promise that he would never command her to do violence. "Very well. We shall return to the inn, there to wait until this is over. Even if the mercenaries arrive, they cannot bring down the walls in an hour. At least I hope not." They turned and retraced their steps, and this time they found the going easier. Many had left the northern part of the city, and those few who remained were shut indoors. Indeed, Lauren would have thought the place abandoned if she had not been able to hear a distant roar in the south, like thunder ripping through the hills. The noise gave haste to her steps and made her heart hammer. Baby girl! Hey, baby girl! Well, but see, I think that you have to phrase that very carefully, Video Garver, because a character can't do something out of character, but their character can change. And if they do that, if they change, there needs to be a reason for that, but it's still in character. And that can be amazing as a storytelling device. That can be incredible when you're like, this person always does this, but then they go through a series of events and then they do something that they never would have done before. See, that's still in character, but they have changed and evolved, right? So like that's sort of the difference there. I'm doing good, baby girl. Exclaim baby girl. They reached the inn, but before they could enter, the front door burst open to reveal Vivian. She was covered in ash and soot, and where her hair had been carefully arranged before, it was now tousled and hung about her head in a mess of fraying strands. Her eyes fell upon Zane and washed through with stark relief. She went to him and seized his sleeve. Zane was too startled to draw away. "There you are," she said. "The city needs you for its defense. Come with me." Jordell stepped between them and pushed Vivian's hand roughly away. "He is not meant to fight in this war of yours, Vivian. I have told you as much already. He must leave the city, and the sooner the better." "Yet they will not open the gate to you, will they?" cried Vivian. "How will he help you in your great purpose if this city is toppled stone by stone, and him inside it? The Dorshan dogs throw their full strength at us, Jordell. If the mercenaries..." She doesn't need to say his name there. Exclamation point. Yeah, exactly, Video Garver. But I think that especially when you talk about these things like storytelling conventions, or for me like indie publishing advice, when people don't phrase things correctly, it drives me fucking nuts, because there's the whole, if you I don't know how much you guys know about or like study indie publishing and like indie publishing advice and everything like that, but there is this trend called right to market, and fuck me does that name piss me off, because the people who are really big proponents of the right to market model, Chris Fox is the one who actually wrote the book Right to Market, and the self-publishing podcast guys, Johnny, Sean, and Dave, they talk about right to market a lot, and it's a big part of their strategy. I think Joanna Penn talks about it to like a lesser degree. They use that correctly, and they do the correct thing, which is using market studies and studying the market and studying their audience to write books that will appeal to their audience more, that will give their audience what they want and sell better. But right to market as a phrase means write what will sell, regardless of whether you like it or not, regardless of whether you're good at it, etc., etc., etc. And if you talk to Chris Fox and Johnny, Sean, and Dave and all that sort of thing, they're like, no, obviously you have to know the genre, you have to enjoy the genre, you have to like the genre, you have to da-da-da-da-da. But the name right to market doesn't fucking mean any of that. And they are taking good advice, and people, they are giving good advice that is based on a good idea, and people are doing bad things with it. And obviously it doesn't entirely come from the name, but I think that the name of the strategy, right to market, people hear that and they're like, I want to do that. And they create shitty, fucked up books that make the industry worse, because when people read books like that, they are less likely to trust indie authors because they have the experience of shitty books. You get what I mean? So like phrasing is very important. And on storytelling, things like that, it's like the same thing. Like you can't say that somebody should do things out of character, because that will make some people go, oh my God, well then I can have my characters do whatever I want. You know what I mean? The Dorshan dogs throw their full strength at us. If the mercenaries have not already reached the northern wall, it is only a matter of time. If we do not hold them back now, at once they will kill every soul inside these walls. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Mega. Like, if I was writing to market, I would not do any of the things that I do in my books. I would not use, like old sounding language. I would not have crafted a style that heralds back to that harkens back to Tolkien and before him, like ancient bardic poetry and the Odyssey and the original Beowulf and all that sort of thing. I would not have female protagonists. I would not have a world with gender equality and racial equality. None of that is writing to the fantasy market. None of it. I am trying to take the market with me. Yeah, exactly, Video Garver. Like, oh, when people say things like that, I get literally nauseous. You know what I mean? The Dorshan dogs throw their full strength at us. If the mercenaries have not already reached the northern wall, it is only a matter of time. If we do not hold them back now, at once they will kill every soul inside these walls. I granted you leave to stay and fight, said Jordell in a voice of steel. No more will I grant you, and certainly not the lives of these here before you. And are our lives yours to bandy about and barter with? Said Lauren. That gave Jordell pause, and the mystics both turned to look at her. She fought the urge to quail before Jordell's hard look and Vivian's smug one. A moment ago you begged me to help you escape, said Jordell. Yet that is now impossible, and so we have a new choice, said Lauren. I have no wish for fighting, but if our hands can keep the city walls standing, then I, for one, would pledge mine. The city will not fall, said Jordell, not yet, at any rate. They have brought wizards, Jordell, said Vivian quietly. Wizards of great power. I fear they may be abominations, eaters of the black crystal. Jordell fell silent, his face suddenly grave. Lauren saw Zane behind them, and his eyes had taken on their hungry glint once more. They overpowered me on the southern wall, Vivian went on. Barely, for neither alone was mightier than I, but together they were too strong. But he could beat them. She pointed to Zane. If he can fight as he fought upon the dragon's tail, the walls will stand. Zane studied her, his face betraying nothing. Jordell heaved a great sigh, running a hand over his eyes as though weary. Then he turned not to Zane, but to Lauren. You would help this city, of which you know nothing and have been in scarcely more than a day? It is a city of Selvin. I will not fight, but I will help where I may. And if Vivian speaks truth, then no help will be unwelcome. We could always sell out and write romance. You know, what's funny? So many indie authors do that. They're like, well, fuck, I can write a romance book. And they think that romance readers are voracious, which in truth they are. But I have heard from more indie authors who are like, I will write romance because I can sell it well. And they are fucking miserable. They're successful, you know? They do. They write well and they get an audience, and that audience is voracious. They'll read anything you publish as soon as you publish it, and they'll beg you for more. But if that's not what you enjoy, they are fucking miserable. And then they come... I mean, they don't come to me like for advice or anything like that, but we're talking and they come to me and they're like, and now like I can't break out, I can't write sci-fi, which is what I want to write. I tried, and I told my audience, I have this email list, 50,000 people, and I wrote a sci-fi book, and I told my email list, and like 50 people bought it. Nobody cares. I'm like, of course they don't. They're romance readers, you know? And what comes along with that is that everybody who I know who wrote romance because they thought, oh, it'll sell well, I'll make lots of money and everything like that, they have this disrespect for their readers that makes my skin crawl. They talk about them in the most derogatory fashion, in the most disgusting way. It's really gross. It actually makes me, I mean, it makes me angry, but it more makes me like, it makes me nauseous. The way they talk about their readers. They call them idiots. They call them, you know, like some of the worst ones call them like thirsty bitches, and just like it's really gross. And it is what happens when it's like when you want to be an actor in LA. I have a lot of experience with this. Not that I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a director, but I knew lots of actors. And you want to be an actor and you become, and so you go into retail or whatever, and you have your customer service persona, but you don't like retail. You don't like interacting with people who are trying to buy stuff from you, and customers are terrible and everything like that. And you're like, retail is the worst. Customers are the worst. They're morons. They come in, they're screaming children. They're da-da-da-da-da. That's not necessarily objectively true, but you're doing something that you fucking hate and you don't like your clients. And that's the same thing with people who are like, I'll write romance because I can make a bunch of money that way because romance readers are suckers. Your opinion of romance readers does not get better the more you continue doing that. Well, thank you, KJ Jones. I will never stop writing about Lauren and the gang in Underrealm because I love it. It is a city of Selvin. I will not fight, but I will help where I may, and if Vivian speaks the truth, then no help will be unwelcome. Certainly not. We would all be in your debt, said Vivian. In inner voice, Lauren heard the same earnest passion she had shown that afternoon in the craftsman's quarter. Then I cannot stop you, said Jordell, and I should have expected as much, I suppose. I will come then and try to ensure your safety, but each of you must... Excuse me. But each of you must decide this for yourselves and do not pledge lightly, for you are all strangers to battle and may find it unpleasant to your taste afterwards if you come through it at all. Lauren turned to Jem and Annis. You should stay here, she said. You will be safe here at the inn. It is like the riverboat. Our hopes rest with Zane. You mean to go, said Jem, standing as tall as he could, and I will not have you go alone, but I would fight upon the wall. Where may I find a sword my size? Do not be an idiot, said Lauren, giving him a small shove. You will stay by my side. Annis looked at them both helplessly and threw her hands in the air. You are both idiots. That should be italicized, I think. It's a fantasy setting, Prodigium, what you'd call like medieval fantasy. I hate the term medieval fantasy, like so many other things, because it's not actually medieval times, because it doesn't actually take place on Earth, and yada yada yada, and that's too restrictive. But it's medieval fantasy. It's straight up Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones shit. Oops. R.A. Salvatore is like what's a good comparison? It's like potato chips. I love me some potato chips in moderation every once in a while, and if I eat too many potato chips, I never want to touch them again, and it's a long time before I can ever even look at a potato chip without getting nauseous. Oh my god, it's Kristen. Hi, Kristen. Yeah, not exactly Game of Thrones type. It's definitely I don't. It's a little bit less. It's a little bit less racist and rapey than Game of Thrones. Other than that, straight up Game of Thrones shit. Oh, I hate barbecue potato chips. I won't touch one barbecue potato chip. But Buffalo Blue potato chips, I will eat until I am sick of them. You are both idiots. This is a fool's errand, as anyone with sense could see. But if you can promise me we will not, but if you can promise we will not be in the fighting, I suppose I cannot let you run off by yourselves, though no doubt you deserve it. And you, Zane, said Vivian, I mean no insult to the others, but Lauren speaks true. Your help will sway the battle. Not theirs. Do. I mean no insult to the others, but Lauren speaks true. Your help, not theirs, will sway the battle. What say you? Zane looked to be deep in thought, his eyes unblinking, but Lauren noticed that he stared at Annis. Again she heard a voice crying out a warning in her mind, but she pushed it away. I will go, said Zane, and they shall not stand against me. 26. They left... Chapter 26. Oh, we gotta mark 25 as done. What did I do? Who did I call an idiot? I didn't call anybody an idiot. Chapter 26. They left... Oh, because I was reading from the book. Hilarious. Yeah, no, I get that. I was talking to KJ Jones, and then I start reading from the book, and I say, "You're both idiots." Not my intention. Chapter 26. They left in haste, abandoning their things at the inn. On the street... At the inn. Good. I thought I said abandoning their things in the inn. On the street, Lauren tugged on Zane's arm to draw him back, letting the others drift ahead. Once out of earshot, she leaned in close to whisper, "Are you well enough for this fight, wizard? Vivian thinks the other wizards have mage stones, and yet they are not as strong as she," said Zane. "I took her measure upon the river. Had I been well, there would have been no contest to our match, and even now some remnant of the mage stones courses in my veins. I think it will prove more than enough." "You think? Do not fear for me," Zane said scornfully. "Only keep your head from becoming too friendly with an arrow." The roar Lauren had heard in the south grew louder the closer they approached. And as they drew near to the wall, she saw its source at last. Thousands of Wellmont citizens crying in unison with hate and fear and pain and death. The sky was streaked with spears of flame, burning arrows raining upon Wellmont, sending the buildings into a blaze. "You will help with the fires," Vivian commanded, pointing to Lauren, Jem, and Annis. "The arrows have caught many buildings alight. When the men bring buckets from the river, you will... When... When buckets are brought from the river, you will carry the... Oh, in the Scrivener document as well. When buckets are brought from the river, you will carry them wherever they are needed. Very well, said Lauren. "Zane with me," said Vivian. "We will be needed on the walls." Jordell seized her arm. "See to his safety, Vivian. I will hold you accountable if any harm should befall him." I will probably be streaming tomorrow, yes. Well, sometimes men is appropriate. It's only if I get like if you're actually talking about men, then that's fine. But by default, language-wise, we tend to use men to mean like a group of soldiers. But in a world where a group of soldiers is probably half men and half women, it is no longer appropriate. It is no longer appropriate to always use the word men as a default, right? Do. I have seen his power, said Vivian. You need not fear for him, and I will have little part to play. Regardless, do not forget my words. Jordell released her, and together Vivian and Zane vanished into the streets, enshrouded by the black smoke that seemed to pour from everywhere. You will not join them? Lauren asked Jordell. A wizard you might not be, but a sturdy sword will no doubt be of use in the fighting. Not as much as a wary eye keeping watch on the three of you. If Zane is as powerful as Vivian claims, and as powerful as I have been led to believe, the battle will be a short matter once he takes the field. I would sooner see you through this in safety. So what do we say as a default? It depends on the situation. If you're talking about a group of soldiers, you say the soldiers, not the men. If you're talking about a group of sailors, you say the sailors. If you're talking, you know... Or you can, there are so many words. There are so many words that you can use. You can just say, you know, instead of saying the men that gathered on the field, you can say those that gathered on the field, the ones that gathered on the field. It's there's a billion. A billion variations. I would sooner see you through this in safety. They joined the bucket lines and ran from building to building, throwing water upon any flame that reared its golden head. Lauren soon found it to be the most exhausting and unpleasant thing she had experienced. Unpleasant is so weak. Unpleasant. Blech. See, this is an example of something that's not wrong, but like not something that my editor would catch. Because it's not the wrong word, but it is the wrong word. It's not horrifying either. All right, later, Mega. Oh, you mean check out? Oh, gotcha. Sorry. I thought you meant like check out as in like log out, like leave. All right, KJ Jones, later. Well, no, it would have its own music. Chicken sandwich. Is that too similar to the earlier chapter? Prodigium. The directing still happens every once in a while, but actually, my writing career is my long road to filmmaking. So the thing that I discovered was nobody wanted you to direct a movie unless you had already directed a movie. And there was no way I was directing a movie without money. And I was not making enough money to direct a movie. And I did not have like the rich uncle or anything like that. Now, one thing that I realized, there is another way to get people to allow you to direct a film, and that is to have the rights to a best-selling book that has a pre-existing, pre-established audience. Peter Jackson got to direct the Lord of the Rings films not because he was Hollywood's golden boy, but because he literally bought the film rights to the Lord of the Rings. He heard them, he saw that they came on the market, and he was like, holy fucking shit, my God, and he bought them. And he had directed a few films before that, so he was able to buy them. I'm sure they were not cheap. And then he went to the studios and he said, I have the rights to the Lord of the Rings, and here's my plan for the movies. And the studios were like, the movies? You mean the movie? He said, no, the movies. There needs to be at least 2 of them, preferably 3. Or no, he said there needs to be 3 of them. And every studio was like, fuck you, buddy. No. And he went around until finally he found New Line. And he had, at that point, he'd been whittled down to 2 movies. And he'd whittled the script down to 2 movies. And he gave his pitch. And Barry Osborne, the producer, was like, stared at him in silence for a while. And he has this famously unreadable face. And Peter Jackson was like, well, I've lost. Like, there's no way this is going to happen. And Barry Osborne was like, no fucking way you can do this in 2 movies. It has to be at least 3. And Peter Jackson was like, yes! So yeah. So basically, that was the thing. So I was like, okay, so if I could take my story, because these were all of Underrealm was film and series ideas originally, right? Well, I'm not really quoting Peter Jackson because I can't speak in a very good New Zealand accent, but so so these were all film and television ideas originally because I wanted to direct. But I had also wanted to be a writer when I was a teenager, and it wasn't until after high school that I discovered filmmaking and discovered how much more I loved it. So I said, what if I go back to my original goal, which was to become a writer, write these series, turn them into best-selling series, and then turn them into film and television from there. And fuck it, if I do go the film route instead of the television route, like I theoretically could fund the things on my own. Like the budget for all of the Lord of the Rings was $300 million, and I'm not saying I'm going to make films of that scale, but if I get to the point where I can invest like millions of dollars and I have that as my starting point, then I can find fundraising, like say like, listen, I'm pitching in X amount of money, you should pitch in X amount of money, da 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 da. Or like you can, if I get to the point where my books have made me a millionaire, right off the bat, you walk into a pitch meeting with a film studio and you're like, yo, my books have sold X million amount of copies. Let's make a movie. And they'll be like, yeah, okay. Like your audience is there, right? And that just is a very powerful position to negotiate directing from. That being said, I do still direct. Well, the funny thing is, Prodigium is until like last year, I have much more experience with script writing than actual. Well, that's not true. In terms of pages, I have much more experience with script writing than novel writing until last year. In terms of words, the ratio is quite different. Yeah, poor Josh Trank. But do I have a command for this? I do. Yeah, so that's the last film I directed right there in chat. I just dropped a link, and that's a film, So I still do every once in a while, and actually in 2017 we are going to make our first Underrealm film. It's going to be a short film, but we are going to put it up for sale, and I have an email list of thousands of people who buy my books when I release them, and I'm hoping that I can be like, yo, and now I've made a movie that's set in the world. Why don't you go watch it? A little bit more detail than that, videographer, but you got the idea. Ugh. Okay, so let's... They joined the bucket lines and ran from building to building, throwing water upon any flame that reared its golden head. It was the most draining experience of Lauren's life, taxing both her body and her mind. In no time, she panted from exertion as she lugged impossibly heavy buckets through the streets. Every few moments, another flaming arrow overhead would force them all to duck. The shafts were spread so far apart that there seemed little danger of being hit, yet Jordell directed them to hide within doorways and behind walls often, and whenever he did, a whistling would fill the air, a fresh volley to pepper the city. Right. Good luck, Prodigium. It's a hard fucking industry. I tried to get in for years and never fully succeeded. I don't know if it's coming through on stream, but my kids are home and they're fighting. Siblings. There was no every few fresh volley to pepper the city. There was no mistaking the moment Zane joined the fight. Amidst the chaos, an even greater clamor arose, a tremendous swelling crackle that drowned the shouts and screams around them. Looking up, Lauren saw a small figure crowned in a corona of light. Fire and lightning spit from Zane's hands, flying over the wall to strike amidst the host on the other side. Sometimes his flames were dashed away, and sometimes magic vaulted the wall to strike at him, but always Zane cast it back. She could not watch him long, however, for fire had spread through many of the city's buildings and required all their efforts to put out. I do have thin walls and floors. Oh man, that's rough, Video Carver. Yeah, that's why I was like, no patience for all of that. You know what I mean? She could not watch him long, however, for fire had spread through many of the city's buildings and required all their efforts to put out. No matter how many blazes... okay, so here we go. No matter how many blazes they doused, ever more were born. Arrows never ceased, and though sparse, they were still many. A constable would seize her shoulder without warning and point her to some building. Lauren would follow their finger and find a blaze licking the roof or somewhere inside and splash water upon it until her bucket was empty. Then she would return to the line to find another bucket waiting. She had a thought in the midst of it all, as she took shelter from another flight of arrows. Not once in all this had she seen any Dortians. The chaos atop the wall was too far and too frantic to see much of anything, and no men had yet breached the southern gate. Here she was, fighting as hard as anyone in Wellmont to save their city, and she could not even see the foe. In her weariness, the thought struck her as uncommonly funny, and she gave a quick bark of laughter. "What?" said Jem, wheezing as he leaned on his knees beside her. "What could possibly make you laugh in the middle of all this madness?" "We cannot even see them," said Lauren. "The Dortians, where are they?" Jem stared at her, his large eyes brilliant white in the middle of a soot-blackened face. "They are on the other side of the wall, you imbecile." "Never mind. Another bucket. Annis?" A silence followed and her heart stopped. Frantically she looked around, but the girl was nowhere in sight. "Annis!" she screamed. Her fingers grasped at Jem's threadbare shirt and pulled him close. "Where is she? Which way did she go?" "I do not know," said Jem. "Let go of me." "Annis!" she screamed, stepping heedless into the street. "Annis!" Oh, those quote marks are not italicized. Little tiny formatting thing. Whoops. Well, that's good, Video Garver. Yeah, I actually, some of the most fun sets that I've ever worked on were not because I was the director. It was because, what do you call it? There was going to be a sentence there. It was just because of the set. Like, I don't mind. I've done boom op work. I've been a grip. I've been gaffer, and it's not that like I was like creating everything, but just because like the set was really fun. So if it's a good place to work, if you've got a good team, you know, even like a lesser job, quote unquote, can be like a lot of fun. Good resources for a self-publishing education. You know, that should actually be a command. Do. Oh, shoot. Can I not add spaces? How do I add new lines? Nope, that's not what I meant. What a terrible command. How do you add lines? No! Nothing! Oh my god. I might have to fix that later. Um, Hey, what's up, Red Live 1222? No. Is that it? Does that work? Yes, that's it. Okay. There's all the top resources I usually recommend. I should just have I should have a page on my website, actually. I should have a page on my website that I just route people that has all the resources, and then that's just a link that you can share. So I'll put that together one of these days. Lauren, cried a voice, and she found herself thrown to the ground as a small form tackled her. She raised her arms to strike it until she spotted Annis's face. Annis, what are you... Down, she shouted, and pushed Lauren into the cobblestones. A whistling filled the air, and fire arrows passed over and around them, striking cobblestones and ricocheting with a sharp tang, but none found their mark. How many novels have I published? What is it, up to 17 by now? 15, 16, 17? Yeah, I will forget, Kristen, in 5 minutes for sure. Red Live, have a free book. Just drop the link in chat. There, now I maybe, hopefully, won't forget quite so easily. Thank you, said Lauren. I thought we had lost you. I was searching. I got turned around. Let us try to find... I got turned around. I became lost, I think, is a more in-character way to say that. There we go. I thought I had lost you. Let us try to find... The rest of Annis's words were lost in a roar of flame and snapping timbers. A building farther down the street had collapsed, and from its ruins bloomed a shower of sparks that singed the air around them. Yeah, take your time with it, Red Live. Definitely. Oh, I'm glad you like Twitch, Mega. I love it here. What's funny is I don't consume writing streams. That's not what I watch. I watch video game streamers. That's a great description, Prodigium. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, somebody linked the blacksmithing guy. You won't get banned for links. Unless you'll only get banned if you come in here and just start self-promoting yourself relentlessly. But if somebody will please link the blacksmithing guy, that would be great. Because I want to sub to him immediately. Not sub, but follow. I mean, maybe sub. Does he have subs? Okay. Put it out, screamed a voice nearby. Get that building before it catches the others. Come on, said Lauren, rising and tugging Annis to her feet. Jem joined the girls, and together the three of them ran towards the collapsed building. It was either a shop or a house, Lauren could not tell. She paused as she realized Jordell was not there. In her panic to find Annis, Lauren had almost forgotten the mystic. As they came to the wreckage, Lauren heard a blood-curdling scream from within. Poking from between two timbers, a hand grasped at the air. Inside, she could see the licking tongues of flames. There's someone inside, said Annis, but Lauren had already seized one of the beams and was trying to move it. Annis went to her side, and in a moment two men appeared. Together they heaved the debris away from the body, and Lauren reached for the hand that clutched for her. She pulled as hard as she could. A woman slid out among the dirt and the filth, screaming still louder as she came to rest on the cobblestones. Flames had roasted her flesh like meat on a spit, and the stench made Lauren gag. The woman had been rendered sightless, with deep burns across her eyes, and every limb flailed as she screamed in agony. Calm down, said Lauren, though she herself wanted to run crying. Help me get her to a healer. Together with Annis, they heaved the woman up and slowly made their way to a bucket line. This woman needs a healer, said Lauren, but no one paid any attention. A healer? Where can I find a healer? Finally, her calls caught the attention of a constable, one of the men directing those who carried buckets. He took one look at the woman and turned away. Leave her. Those burns will kill her, and no medicine can prevent it. We must try, said Lauren, angry. Somebody knocking at my office door. I do format in InDesign, yes. 1 sec, be right back. Fluffy Wuffy was a bear. That is hilarious. I'm going to have to sub on my phone so that it actually goes on the account that I watch stuff on, because I do not watch stuff here on my from my VlogaNovel account. Whoops. Be silent. Okay. Put your efforts towards saving the buildings, else many more will die from the fires. The constable walked away, and Lauren was left standing with the woman's arm slung across her shoulders. Come, said Annis gently. He is right. We must do as he says. Lauren wanted to argue, but as Annis lowered the woman to the ground, she had little choice but to do the same. The screams had redoubled, and she clutched hard at the black cloak. Lauren tried to pry her fingers away, but the woman had a grip of iron. I am sorry, said Lauren, voice shaking. I am sorry, I must go. At last she freed herself from the woman's grip and stumbled away, but not towards the bucket line. She did not know if it was the smoke or the red glow of the fires or merely the shock of it all, but Lauren felt blind. A wall reared up before her, and she crashed into it, her shoulder smarting from the impact as the ground swam up to meet her. Her throat seemed to constrict, burning as it sucked in the smoky air. The smell of the woman still lingered in her nostrils. Then all at once it overwhelmed her, and she lost her food to the cobblestones. When she was done, she sat up and leaned against the wall. Where was Annis? She looked around, searching, and spotted the girl on the other side of the street. Annis sat beside Jem, holding the boy in her arms while he shook uncontrollably with tears. Gently, Annis rocked him back and forth while Jem scrubbed at his eyes. Though her limbs still felt weak, Lauren forced herself to rise and go to them. She was struck by the calm on Annis's face. The girl could have been riding a carriage on a country road for all the distress she showed. Gently, she stroked Jem's hair, rocking him back and forth as the boy fought for control. As Lauren approached, Annis looked up at her. "Are you well?" "I am not," said Lauren, "but I shall have to pretend. And you? This madness does not seem to trouble you as much as I would have thought." "I have seen death before," Annis shrugged. "Sometimes much worse than this." All they really wanted was a hug. My favorite thing about Vikings is the recent discovery that about half of their warriors were actually women. Like, when they investigate tombs of Viking warriors and everything like that, and they like did DNA tests on the bones, it's like, yeah, about half of them were girls. No big deal. And for people who loved to pillage other places, they had surprisingly excellent notions of gender equality within their own society. Didn't apply necessarily to people that they attacked and conquered. I am proofreading. Read live. I am proofreading. Final proofread of the print version. A lot of the stuff I'm catching is like just like print formatting stuff, and then some of it is like writing stuff. "I've seen death before," Annis shrugged. "Sometimes much worse than this." Lauren wondered at that, for the image of the burned woman would not leave her mind, but then she thought of Damaris and what Annis had said when they escaped, how she had seen her mother killed before in many terrible ways. Lauren shuddered. "Can you go on, Jem?" she said. "No one will think worse of you if you wish to return to the inn." "I will not leave you here in this madness." Jem's voice was brave, even as his tears continued to flow. It is only that I have never seen such things before. This is no battle like they tell of in stories." "Battles rarely are," said Annis, still holding him tight. "Send your mind from here. Think of a day in the future when we have left this place far behind and live in Calenton as wealthy nobles. It will come true if you keep thinking of it." Jem shook his head, but he did not shrug her arms away. "I am not a child. I do not play such games. Only give me a moment to collect myself." "In the darkness under the river, you told me to do the same thing," said Annis. "Send your mind somewhere more pleasant and keep breathing." That calmed him. Jem sucked in a deep gulp of air and slowly released it. A few more times, and at last he scrubbed at his eyes with the back of his hand. Then, with Lauren's help, he rose. "Very well," he said. "If we mean to return to this madness, let us do it now." We've used madness quite a lot, haven't we? Oh, if we mean to return to this chaos, let us do it now before one of you loses your nerve. Lauren gave him a gentle smile and he returned it. Then she led them back to the bucket line, and soon they plunged back into a world of roaring flames and pain-soaked screams. No, Red Live. I don't have a lot of problem with motivation. I have a lot of problem with maintaining a schedule, but that's about it. And I'm terrible at giving advice on motivation. If you're not motivated, I don't know what to tell you. All the while, Lauren found herself looking anew at Jem and Annis beside her. She wondered if she would have been as strong at their age, or if she would have run in terror from the flames. In the birchwood, under the sway of cruel parents, it had been easy to envision herself as the brave girl at the center of a great tale waiting to be told. But now she had met two others whose courage might have eclipsed her own. Were they exceptional as she had imagined herself, or did they only answer the call of circumstance? The thought weighed heavily on her mind as they kept running, dousing, and running again. And then the bells pealed throughout the city once more, and a great shout rose up all along the southern wall. No more arrows hissed at them through the air. The Dorshans were retreating. The battle was over. Chapter 26, done, motherfucker. Been a bit slower today than it was last night. But that is where I'm going to have to end off because my family has made dinner and it smells fucking amazing and I'm starving. Chapter 26, done. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. All right, y'all. I'm going to be off. I will come back and stream at some point later tonight, though I don't know exactly when. So, yes. Keep your eye out for that. There's that knocking again. I'll catch you all later or maybe another time. Feel free to follow the channel if you haven't already. Feel free to turn on notifications and all that sort of thing. And I will be back on when I can be. Thanks for watching. Bye!